Here, read this.
Woof.
Good afternoon. It is December the 5th, 2025, and here is your poem for the day. Continuing the theme of Merlin and Merlins, the feathery kind, we are back to raptors with this poem, Merlins on My Mind, by Rennie. Frank was a guest on the podcast earlier in the year. He was talking about his book, Merlin, the Ecology of a Magical Raptor. If you're a bird lover, I highly recommend listening to the podcast and checking out the book as well. The poem, which is called Merlins on My Mind, serves as the epigraph to Frank's book. Since I've had Merlins on my mind in one way or another for the last few days, I thought I'd bring us back to raptors instead of magicians with this poem. So, as usual, I will read it through in one go, and then we'll talk a little bit about it afterwards. Here we go. Miles and miles of mossy moor and Merlins on my mind, searching the sky for snatches of speed or screeches that startle the hinds. Avian alerts and aerial alarms, floating and fluidly calling, dashing and ducking and dexterously diving with the tiercel tumbling and falling. The brown-backed female buzzing the ground with effortless ease and effect, sweeping the skyline, surprising the songbirds, demanding her dues for respect. Dancing dreams of birds of prey, frenetic following flights, the blip of blue that blurs the sky and stalks my sleepless nights. There you go. I've just realised I've got a new camera set up and I have no idea if I'm actually looking into the lens or not. Forgive me, I'll catch up with where to look at and train myself over the coming few days. I hope I'm looking at the camera now, but if I check the monitor, my eyes don't move quick enough, which is very fitting for this poem about trying to spot elusive birds of prey. So what I like about this poem by Frank is that it truly is a naturalist's poem. The details of Merlin behaviour and Merlin habitat are very precisely observed. You have the dexterity of their flight. I think Ursula K. Le Guin described it as a jinking flight in the poem we did a few days ago. Then you have the screeching call, the kee call that Merlins make, which is very distinctive. And Frank makes the distinction between the brown-backed female and the smaller tiercel, the male. You also have the experience of looking for Merlins related. It's often a very frustrating endeavour, as Frank talks about on our podcast and in his book. It's a notoriously hard to spot bird, one that leaves people looking for mere snatches of speed, as he puts it in the poem. That's how a first glimpse of Merlin tends to go, a rapid blur, usually low flying close to the ground, and gone before your eye can catch up. Avian alerts and aerial alarms. I don't know why, but this sounded kind of techie to me. It made me think of the magical app, also called Merlin, which recognizes bird calls and identifies the species for you. Now, as I've mentioned on other Merlin poems, the name for the raptor and the name of the magician evolved separately. In fact, if there is any bird wrapped up in the nomenclature of the magician, it is more likely to be a blackbird, whose French name is Merle. Frank points this out in his book. However, and I haven't asked Frank about this, so I may be way off here, I do still detect a few Arthurian touches nonetheless. First of all, we have the alliteration, reminiscent of Arthurian poems like the Gawain poem and the alliterative Mort Arthur. And then consider that this poem, like yesterday's poem by Richard Wilbur, is a quest for Merlin, not conducted by knights, but a naturalist, and yet still full of the sounds of chivalrous jostle, the dashing and ducking and dexterous diving, the tiercel tumbling and falling. Despite all that rather masculine noise, an important aspect of the Merlin story is female supremacy. The Merlin we've seen in the last two poems, whether he's been trapped in a crystal cave in the poem of Edwin Muir's, or in more abstract sleep, as we find in Richard Wilbur's poem, he has been put there by Ninian, Nimue, Vivian, the Lady of the Lake, or however you want to call her. And here, Frank points to the female Merlin's domination over the male. It is her who sounds the more towering of the two. The brown-backed female buzzing the ground with effortless ease and effect, sweeping the skyline, surprising the songbirds, demanding her dues for respect. And then finally, we have the emphasis on Merlin inhabiting dreams. The twist here being that it is the speaker stuck in dreams of Merlin, not Merlin trapped in a dreamlike world on his own. Dancing dreams of birds of prey, frenetic following flights, the blip of blue that blurs the sky and stalks my sleepless nights.